Okay. Introducing my guest, he was director of media relations for the Iowa Cubs. Afterwards, he was the media relations manager for the Baltimore Orioles. One of his favorite moments in baseball is Kerry Wood's, his ex-roommate, 20 strikeout game. I take it he's a Cubs fan. His mission is to grow the game of baseball one minor league game at a time. He resides in Florida, taking advantage of the baseball culture around the state. Ladies and gentlemen, Senior Director of Communications for Minor League Baseball, Jeff Lantz. Jeff, how are you doing this fine Thursday?
Very good, Eddie. Thanks for having me.
No worries. How excited are you having baseball, specifically minor league baseball, coming on 2021?
Man, it was good to be able to go to the ballpark and just see any baseball down here after about a year off. So that was great. And obviously, the minor league system, a lot of those teams really had a difficult year financially. Obviously, with no games being played, it made it really tough on their business model. So they are literally dying to get back at work and get in the ballpark and get some games going and get the gates open and tickets moving through the gate.
When the news of minor league baseball came about with 2020, I grew some gray hairs just from the stress. I just imagine the gray hairs you grew from all the stress that you had to deal with during that time, specifically also with the reduction of 160 teams to 140. Was it? Is that accurate?
Yeah, we went down from 160 to 120. So we, it was definitely a challenging year. We had the elimination of short season baseball. So a lot of those teams have moved on to different levels of competition, whether it's independent leagues, college summer leagues, draft prospect leagues. So Major League Baseball has done a nice job of helping the communities that no longer have an affiliated team maintain professional baseball at some level or amateur prospect league baseball at some level. So well, at least baseball wasn't taken away from all those communities entirely.
Yes. So that's an awesome thing. Hopefully, in a couple of years, we see it grow on its own organically, and we see more baseball around the U.S. and around the world. But for this podcast, kind of new to baseball, we're focused on making baseball and information digestible and easy for new and young fans. With that being said, the topic of today is the journey of a minor league baseball player. I think it's imperative for baseball fans, especially young ones, to know about minor league baseball because it is the building block of the major leagues. And not only following that, the building blocks of the major leagues, but it also gives you more of a personal attachment to these players, following them from their college level playing to single A to double A to triple A, all the way to the majors. It gives you this not only great information about them, but also this personal attachment that, I saw this person develop. I know more about this player more than most people because they've just seen them on the major league level scale. Yeah. When we talk about the journey of being drafted from college or high school, talking about that journey, have you noticed a difference between being drafted from high school and college? Is there a slower development of a high school player versus a college baseball player?
Yeah, I think, when you draft a high school player, in a lot of cases, unless it's Alex Rodriguez, Manny Machado, those guys, Bryce Harper, when you're drafting those kind of guys at 17, 18 years old, you got a pretty good idea that they're going to be really, really good, right? But some guys grow up playing in Millville, New Jersey, like Mike Trout, and scouts only get 20 games a year to see Mike Trout play in high school. That's kind of a flyer. You might think he's going to be a great player, but if you only have maybe, a scout might see a guy 6-7 times in the spring, that you're taking a chance on a high school player, whereas a college player has a few more years under their belt. You can see and get more data on them, watch them play a little longer and see if they, a lot of times guys will put on 15, 20 pounds while they're in college. And usually that's a good thing for a player. So, I think with the shorter drafts now too, teams are probably a little less likely to take flyers on high school players because you can't miss anymore. You used to be able to pick 60 players back in the day, and it's been reduced down to 40, I think, the last 10 years or whatever. And, if you took a flyer on a couple of high school guys and they came into your minor league system and you found out they couldn't hit a breaking ball, okay, well, we took a shot on him. Yeah. But now you can't spend that money and waste that money with the bonuses and all that are slotted out. So you can't waste any money anymore. And so a lot of teams are picking from the college ranks because they have a little more data and a little more, a little longer chance to get eyeballs on a player and see what they really think. So, but obviously, like I said, when you're looking at the Bryce Harpers and the guys like Mike Trout, they're hard to miss. Everybody knows who they are. So, those guys they don't come along every year.
I'm assuming 20 games of Mike Trout will make you a believer.
You would think, right? Especially with an aluminum bat. Can you imagine that guy hitting with an aluminum bat?
I got to see a game. I got to see one of them. I'm going to go on YouTube after this and check some out.
And I think he pitched a lot in high school too. So a lot of people didn't get a chance to see him play center field as much. I think he may have even played some shortstop, but he's obviously an elite player at any level. So, but he was a late first round pick. So I think there were 20 guys picked in front of him in the draft. And you look at that list and there's only a handful of them that even made one All-Star game.
Wow.
He's the greatest player of all time, arguably. So it's pretty crazy. The draft is definitely a crapshoot at times.
Well, with that being said, you worked at the Iowa Cubs, and from the time you worked there till now, what are some of the different refinements in minor league baseball that has gone through over the years that you've noticed in marketing minor league players?
Yeah, when it comes to marketing in the minor leagues, it's really difficult to market a player because, look, if they're good, they might be gone the next day. You look at a guy like Juan Soto. He started the year in, I think it was 2018. I think it was. He started that year in low A ball in Hagerstown and just tore the league apart. And then they moved him to Potomac. And I think he was only there for 2 weeks because he didn't stop hitting there. And then he went to Hagerstown or Harrisburg. And he was there for like 3 weeks, and they're like, enough's enough. This guy's got to be in the big leagues. He's never gone back. So, that's another case where you get a guy that's 19 years old, and nobody can get him out, and bang, the guy's in the big leagues. And
by the way, I'm not related to him.
Okay, all right, too bad, because he's going to make a lot of money.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I may have got off track. Where were you? Tell me again what we're.
Just marketing of minor league players from the time you were in Iowa Cubs till now.
Yeah, so you can't really put on a billboard on the side of the interstate that, hey, Juan Soto is going to be here in Potomac for the next month and a half, because it could be an injury in Washington that night, or even an injury in AA or AAA that they need to fill that spot. He's gone. So. It's really hard to market the players in the minor leagues just because you never know how long you're going to have them. When I was in Iowa, we had Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood come through.
Oh, wow.
And Mark Pryor was, he was all the hype before Bryce Harper and Steven Strasburg came through. And, it was on USA Today's front page of sports that he's coming to pitch for the Iowa Cubs. I think his first game was on a Tuesday night, and we had a full house, which is unheard of in the minor leagues. And, everybody knew when Mark Pryor was going to pitch every fifth day in Iowa. It was a big deal, and we had full houses. But, outside of that, it's really hard to market the players. And not everybody has the fanfare coming in that Mark Pryor had. He was the best pitcher prospect ever, according to some magazines. And all that, and he might have been, and but it's really hard to market the players in the minor leagues just because you're never guaranteed to have them the next day.
Yeah. Do you notice that for these minor league prospects that are like a Juan Soto when he comes up, or like a Machado, or even a Mark Pryor, do you see like minor league jersey sales go up for like memorabilia pieces for them?
Yeah, I think a lot of things like jersey T-shirts now are the big deal. You don't see a lot of jersey sales in the minor leagues just because the price per piece is so much to get them made that a lot of teams aren't. They're willing to have 151 Soto T-shirts made at $4 a piece, and then they sell them in the store for $20. But when you're talking about spending $60, $70, $80 to get a jersey made,
it's a lot of money.
You're going to have to sell it for $150 to get your money back, and a lot of places aren't going to sell stuff for $150. So most of the time, like here in Dunedin, they still sell Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette Dunedin Blue Jays T-shirts in the store. So
wow,
that's cool to see. I watched those guys when they played here, and have great memories of watching them develop as Class A players, and now they're tearing up the big leagues and they're stars. That's pretty neat. And it's pretty cool that Dunedin's able to use their name and put that on that T-shirt and say, hey, these guys were one of ours once.
Yeah, no, that is, it's very special. I'm going to have to buy some T-shirts then from every one of them. My next question is, I noticed that sometimes MLB is trying to make rule changes and it hits the minor league system first. How does the minor league communicate these rules to the teams, and how are they even able to implement them so quickly? Specifically, like when you're talking about a pitch clock. How is a minor league team that doesn't have that many resources able to create like that pitch clock rule? Yeah.
So basically what it comes down to is those are initiatives that are brought to us by Major League Baseball. So they take along with that idea comes the bill, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to put in this pitch clock at 30 AAA stadiums and a bunch of Class A stadiums down here in Florida to get the guys used to it. And that's just, they say if it's our idea, we'll pay for it. So our teams had all those clocks put in by contractors just came in, and MLB ordered the clocks and all that, and the hardware for the press box. There's a guy up there running that clock every pitch. So they pay that role as well. So, and they got enough data that said, hey, this is worth it. It's speeding up the time of the game. Let's continue on with this. And they did it in the Arizona Fall League. And it's been the leagues that do it and enforce it. It works. I think the average game time was down like 10 minutes the first year we did it in the Florida State League. So 10 minutes is a long time.
Yeah, it is.
It's I can get home from the ballpark in 10 minutes. So if I'm getting home if I have a child and we want to stay for 7 innings and we can get that 7 innings in an hour and 45 minutes, I can still get my child home in time for a bath and get ready for bed. And it's not 10:30 at night. It's 8:30 or whatever. So there were a lot of positives with the pitch clocks. That they're going to actually experiment with automated balls and strikes in the spring training stadiums down here in the Florida State League. So we'll see the umpires still back there, but they're actually not going to be calling the balls and strikes. So that'll be interesting to see how that development works out.
Yeah, I just imagine the union for the umpires. There's kind of a rift now between, both minor leagues and major leagues. And, is that part of the CBA even, or is that something separate,
Well, that's something they'll have to hammer out with the umpires union. But I think at the end of the day, it's Major League Baseball's product. They can pretty well do whatever they want with the actual product. Now, a lot of the umpires, maybe not a lot, but I bet you some of them probably don't mind the help on balls and strikes. Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, that has to be the hardest part of being a Major League umpire.
Yeah.
Now, if they miss a call on the base, on first base or second base, they can put the headset on and say, yeah, you know what, the guy was actually safe. Okay, well, think about it if you're Armando Galarraga and you had a perfect game that was blown on a call at first base, if they would have taken 30 seconds and put the headset on, that dude's thrown a perfect game, right? And he's a legend in Major League history right now. He was a solid pitcher for a few years, but he lost a perfect game on a blown call. And everybody knows that. And nobody feels worse about it than the guy that blew the call, right? So
he was crying. About it. I remember that.
I mean, now those calls are right. They're getting them corrected. It's a lot less pressure on the umpire. I mean, they're going to call what they see. And I think the numbers will probably tell you that 98% of the time they get the calls right. And I think as much as people like to complain about the balls and strikes, watching the broadcast on TV or whatever, the laser data that they have home plate triangulated on home plate, most of the time, these guys are getting about 98% of the pitches right. So, and some of the ones that they're missing are breaking balls that are diving and, dipping, and it's a really hard job.
Yeah. I mean, like, to me, like, I don't mind when they, like, it's too close to call and they call it either a ball or strike. I mean, if it's like close, but when it's like out obvious, like there's 2 inches or 3 inches away, obviously right. That's a little bit, like hard to swallow. But like some of the very, very close ones, I don't even mind what they call it, because it's as a human being, it's just one of those difficult things.
And the other thing is, these guys nowadays are throwing 100 miles an hour. And when you're only 60 feet away, by the time that guy lets go of that pitch where he's letting go, he's only 52 feet away. And that thing's coming 100 miles an hour with movement. If they throw a cutter, it's going to move a little bit. That's a really hard job, man.
No,
like if I would encourage people, if you ever have an opportunity, if there's an indoor batting cage place in your town where you live, have them fire the pitching machine up to 100 miles an hour and stand behind home plate. Obviously a few feet behind the net, because that's going to give. But just stand there and look at how fast that is. And I think people will probably stop criticizing home plate umpires after that, because the umpire doesn't know what pitch is coming.
Yeah.
The catcher has enough trouble catching it sometimes, and he knows what's coming. That home plate umpire doesn't know if that pitch is going to break an inch or two that way, an inch or two this way, or if it's going to dive, if it's a slider. I mean, that's one of the hardest jobs in professional sports, if you ask me.
No, I mean, it is. I mean, just that alone, and then with arguments happening, that stress level. I mean, they get cursed at, they get dirt thrown at them, they get all this. It's just a shame, Yeah. I think they're an integral part of baseball. I mean, whether you like them or not, they are history of baseball, and they're a huge piece.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Segue to my next question. We talked about earlier about 40 development licenses being cut away from the minor league baseball teams. With that being said, the journey of a minor league baseball player with 40 teams cut off, does that make it more difficult for a minor league baseball player to be exposed, or is it, still the same?
Yeah, I think it's going to be more of a challenge. I think a lot of it has to do with the scouting. It goes back to the scouting. You only have a certain number of players. If you have 4 minor league affiliates, you have anywhere from 100 to 120 players. So in the old days, you used to have all of those 120 guys, but then you would have another Class A team or a short season team. You would have anywhere from 35 to 50 more guys that are getting a chance. Now, the 2 guys that really come to mind for me when I think about something like that is a guy like Jose Altuve. Everybody knows Jose Altuve. He's a great player, MVP, all that. He spent parts of 3 years in short season baseball trying to get out of those short season leagues and advance up the ladder. Yeah. Well, now if a guy that's 5'3" or 5'4", or whatever he is, that weighs 120 pounds, probably when they signed him, he doesn't get 3 or 4 years to develop anymore. He's got to put up or shut up right away. And maybe he doesn't become the player. He doesn't get a chance to develop into the player that he became. Another guy is Kevin Kiermaier. Kevin Kiermaier he's an above average major league outfielder. He's a Gold Glove winner, Silver Platinum Glove winner. He was picked, I think, in the 31st round. Now there's only 20 rounds in the draft. So Kevin Kiermaier doesn't get the opportunity, A, to get drafted, or B, to go prove himself in a short season league. So, and I think to combat that, Major League Baseball has done a nice job of building up these college summer leagues so that the players that may have been drafted after going to junior college, or may have been drafted after 3 years at a Division I school, maybe they stay in college a little bit longer because they can go play in these wood bat leagues in the summer and get exposure to the scouts. That it just gives the guys another couple of years to develop, get stronger, get faster, get better. Whereas they used to get that opportunity in short season ball, now they're getting it in college and in these summer leagues.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's insane to deal with. I mean, on top of the 40 player development license being cut off, you also weren't able to be provided a relief with the COVID-19 relief bill for minor league baseball. Mm-hmm. How did that affect minor league baseball all in all? And how do you even recuperate? I'm assuming it's going to take several years for you, for that organization to recoup and not even get that relief. Is just mind-boggling.
Most of our teams applied for the PPP loans, the payroll protection plan loans, and most of our teams received those and were able to keep most of their staff intact for at least through June and most of them through September. Unfortunately, I think a lot of those offers ran out at the end of September, and a lot of teams had to furlough employees. In many cases, longtime employees. That's a really tough decision to have to make on people, and it's unfortunate. But I think a lot of them are coming back now because the season's about to start, and they're needed. No matter what the losses were from last year, you still need those people to be ready for this season. But yeah, the timing of this whole pandemic could not have been worse for minor league baseball. Basically, you spend from October of 2019 through March of 2020 with no money coming in from tickets, beer, hot dogs, all that stuff. And so you don't have any revenues coming in. You just have what you made the previous summer. Now you're spending a lot of that money on payroll. You're spending a lot of it on the bobblehead items, the giveaway items for your stadium. So you have all that stuff ready before the season starts. You paid for it. It's all in. It's in storage at your ballpark. And then this pandemic hits, and all of a sudden you don't have any games where you can open up the gates and sell tickets, sell beer, sell hot dogs, cotton candy, peanuts, Cracker Jacks, all that. You have nothing. You have no source of income. And then on top of that, these companies that are sponsoring, they have a sign on the outfield wall, or, they sponsored a fireworks night or something. A lot of those companies or businesses or small local businesses who needed that money back. So a lot of our teams had to give money back to some people, and as if the pandemic wasn't bad enough to have to dip into your reserves to pay back your corporate partners, that's never easy.
No.
But, a lot of people thankfully were willing to just say, hey, keep my season ticket money. Just give me my tickets for 2021. We'll call it good. Well, that's great. But now the team had already spent all that money anyways. So now you have all these seats that are going to be full with no revenue for this year. So they won't start getting.
Think about that. Wow.
Yeah. So all the make goods you have to do from the companies and the season ticket holders, all those people that say, no, you know what, keep the money, but we want that fence sign next year, or we want that suite rental for next year. That's great because they needed to keep that money in a lot of cases, but it's going to make it a real challenge this year. So, I think a lot of any team general manager that is dealing with all that financial impact will tell you that it's going to be a good 3 to 4 years before the teams get back to normal and where they should have been financially.
Jeez. I mean, wow. I just imagine, I kept seeing interview after interview with Jeff Lantz about COVID relief bill and also cutting the minor league. I was just like, man, this guy has just communicating this to everybody and just telling the story. It's not a fun story to tell.
No, it wasn't. It was not, but it was, in a lot of cases, it was one that needed to be told. A lot of politicians and other business leaders might not be familiar with minor league baseball or they're familiar with minor league baseball, but they're not familiar with the business model and how it works. Without any revenue for 5 months leading into your opening day, then all of a sudden you get the rug pulled out from under you for another 6 months. So now you're sitting on 16 months with zero revenue before the next opening day. I don't know any business model that's built to sustain 16 to 18 months of no revenues. And that's where we're at.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you're here now, and, hopefully we get to see some recoupment of that and see what happens for the minor league baseball in 2021. Now for some lighter, less depressing questions. Yeah. The best food in a minor league baseball team. What team has the best food? I know you talked about, I think it was Milwaukee that had something, but I know that there's probably something out there that, who has the best food?
Wow. The one thing I really like to do is when I go to a ballpark, first thing I ask people is, hey, what's the food here? Oh, and what's the beer here, right? Because a lot of these teams now have their own craft beers with the local brewery. So, you feel like you got to try it, right? So,
of course.
But every ballpark has something. There's one thing. I know up in New Hampshire, the Fisher Cats had what was called a squealer, and it was like a ham and bacon and all these different kind of pork products on one sandwich. I never tried that one. They didn't come out with it till after I was up there, but I mean, every ballpark has some signature sandwich or something that they're known for. So don't be shy. When you walk in there, if somebody says, hey, welcome to Principal Park in Des Moines, just walk right up and say, hey, what's the thing to eat here? And they'll tell you that everybody knows what it is when you walk in. So any park you go to, there's always something.
Yeah. With that being said,
for one of my favorites though, it was a jalapeno cheeseburger. It was infused with pepper jack cheese, jalapenos, and on top it had pulled pork on top of the burger. And it had spicy stuff.
I haven't eaten lunch. Can you just?
Oh man, I tell you what, I really could only eat 4 bites because I don't mind spicy food. This was on another level. And it was a good thing that night was dollar beer night because I needed 6 of them. My tongue was on fire. My lips felt like they were melting. But man, it was so good. And then you look over and there's a 10-year-old kid next row over that's just plowing through the whole thing. And I'm like, man, all right. It is what it is.
I guess there's a age rule for that one. Anybody that gets hurt. With that being said, you're just talking about young kids eating food at a minor league game. If you were next to a group of young kids, what would you tell them is why it's important to go to a minor league game, not as opposed to a major league game, but why is it also important to go to minor league games?
Well, I think access and just the ability. If you go to a major league game, for example, I have a 4-year-old. Okay, if I take him to Tropicana Field to watch the Rays here, he's holding my hand most of the time. There's nowhere for him to go run around. And they have a little kids play line there, but you can't see the game from there. So I'm not going to take him down there. But you can't just kind of let your kid roam around in the seats, right? Where when you go to a minor league game, the motto is clean, safe, and fun for the ballpark. So I know he's not going to be picking up stuff off the trash off the ground because there isn't any. It's all in the garbage cans. I know it's safe. There's policemen, there's security, there's ushers all over the place. And it's fun. You have the mascots walking around, taking pictures with kids, doing, interacting with them, playing with them, signing autographs, things like that. It's a more laid back, intimate experience, I think, is probably the biggest difference. Now, if you are going to watch Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, Corey Seager, you should be sitting in your seat to watch those guys anyways, because you probably paid $30, $40, and quite frankly, they're the best players out there. Yeah. So you should be sitting there watching them. Now, you go to a minor league game, I tell you, if you polled 100 people as they left the game, I bet 70 of them couldn't tell you who won. And if you ask those same 100 people what the score was, I bet 90 of them couldn't tell you what the score was. But then you ask them, did you have a good time tonight? And probably 99 out of the 100, if not all 100, will say, oh, man, we had a blast. But no idea what the score was, no idea who won. A lot of times they probably couldn't even tell you who they were playing against. But it doesn't matter in the minor leagues like it does in the big leagues. So, I think it's also important for kids to go to minor league games just because you get exposed to professional baseball that way. My mom and dad I grew up going to Cedar Rapids Reds games. They were, before they became the Colonels, they were Cedar Rapids Reds. And I remember when I was about 12 years old, probably 13 years old, they had a guy coming in from Billings named Reggie Sanders. And, he was the big hot shot coming in from short season ball at the end. And I knew where I grew up in Iowa, and I knew where Billings, Montana was on a map because that's where the guys came that were now Cedar Rapids Reds players. So, I knew where Billings, Montana was just because I went to minor league baseball games in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And then you would follow him on to Chattanooga, and then I think they were in Louisville at the time, maybe Indianapolis. But, and then when you see guys that you watched in low A ball, you become attached to them. You follow their careers. And that's even easier to do now with the internet. That was back when the only way to follow minor league baseball was really through Baseball America magazine. Yeah. And, when Reggie Sanders and Jeff Branson and Eddie Taubensee and Rob Dibble and all these guys are all of a sudden in Cedar Rapids or in Cincinnati after we watched them in Cedar Rapids, you're kind of like, oh, I went out and bought a Cincinnati Reds hat and T-shirt because I was a fan of those guys because they came through Cedar Rapids. Now, I'm a Cubs fan, but I didn't mind rocking the Cincinnati stuff every now and then because I had an attachment to that team. And that's what I think the minor leagues really builds is that attachment to a team. It's no different in Billings, Montana. There's people probably walking around in the streets of Billings right now, provided if it's warm enough, that are probably wearing Cincinnati Reds T-shirt and hat just because the Billings Mustangs have been a Reds affiliate for 40 years or whatever it's been. So, that attachment to the team, I think, is what's important with minor leagues and getting kids to follow baseball and enjoy it and want to watch those guys develop into major leaguers.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons why I'm a baseball fan. It's just minor league baseball. I like in the early '90s. I didn't get that much access to minor league baseball on TV, but I was able to read magazines and, I did go to a couple of games. And when I went to those games, it was like it felt like a major league game to me because that's one of the, my favorite, like my first ever exposure to baseball. And it was cheaper than going to a major league game. Oh, yeah. It's closer too. And I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And that made me want to go to a major league game, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I think our fan cost survey said a family of four can go to a minor league game for just under $70. And that includes your parking, 4 tickets, 4 hot dogs, 2 Cokes, and 2 beers. And we're still under $70. You can barely take a family of 4 to a movie for $70 anymore. So
the movie ain't gonna be that good anyway. So
movies are going downhill anyway. Yeah, stay outside, be outside, and be active. But no, it costs a lot more to go to major league games. The cities are bigger; they got to pay for the ballparks, and they got to pay the players. That's where the minor league teams have really had an advantage over the years. Is that the major league teams pay for the salaries of the players, so we don't have that expense, and that helps. There's no two ways about it. It makes it easier, makes it manageable for the minor league teams to keep the cost down.
Mm-hmm. You go through negotiations all the time with the, not only the restructuring of minor league baseball, but, with the new rules change, or if major leagues saying you are going to be using major league baseball balls now, how do you stay like calm and collective throughout this whole process? Do you have a system in place to just like keep calm throughout this? Because you're in the middle of this whole thing, with communication between minor leaguers and major leaguers and all that. Like,
yeah, and a lot of it is employer-employee issues. So, for example, if people are bent out of shape because they don't think the players make enough pay and make enough salary, well, that's an employer-employee issue. That's between the Atlanta Braves and the Gwinnett Braves players. Minor league players don't have a union, so they can't really bargain that. But MLB, to their credit, has stepped in and said that minor league players are getting a raise this year across the board. So that'll help. But yeah, a lot of it is stuff that's out of our hands. If Major League Baseball wants to put in a pitch clock in the Class A leagues, that's their call. They can do that. They control the on-the-field product. We control everything that's not on the field. So if they want to switch baseballs and have AAA use the Major League ball, they can do that. That's their call. And that's all outlined in what used to be called the Professional Baseball Agreement. That expired at the end of last year, which Major League Baseball then decided to basically do their own deal and come up with their own rules and structure. So there's a lot to it. There's a lot of things that go on, especially with marketing and finding national partners to work with minor league baseball and everything like that. So there's a lot going on. We have a staff of got about 20 left here in Florida now. So at one time we were as high as 65 people, I think. But times are changing. There's a new sheriff in town, and it's Major League Baseball, and we're all doing everything we can to help them out to make sure everything runs smooth this year and beyond.
What is the plan now with marketing in minor league baseball? I mean, the things that minor league baseball, there was no season, the virtual events, I think those were so much fun. And I think, are there going to be some of that this year?
I think you'll end up seeing a lot of what has gone on in the big leagues will start to trickle down to the minor leagues. The national partnerships you see with Major League Baseball, whether it's Geico or I don't want to screw any of these up, but a Major League Baseball sponsor will now be tied into these minor league teams as well. So
that's awesome.
That's only going to help the minor league teams with revenues from these advertising packages. They'll be able to do more things and do some more upgrades around the ballpark with that money or whatever they want to do with it. But yeah, I think you'll start to see, probably not immediately, but over time, Major League Baseball's influence will probably show up a little more on the marketing end than anything. The minor league teams will still be able to do the same promotions between innings, everything that they've always done that really makes that minor league experience so much fun and so enjoyable. The teams are still going to be able to do all that stuff. It's just Major League Baseball is going to set parameters on, hey, your clubhouse needs to be this big. There needs to be a player's lounge for them to relax in after batting practice. The training room needs to be a little bit bigger, or whatever the case may be. I think fans, for the most part, won't even see and won't even notice a difference with Major League Baseball in charge as far as the products on the field. It's going to be pretty much the same enjoyable, exciting experience that it was before.
Awesome. Random question. Kerry Woods, he was your roommate.
Yeah.
What was his favorite thing to eat? Was he a neat guy? Was he like a sloppy roommate? Were you the organizer?
No, he was awesome. No, he was great. When he came to Des Moines, I had a couple of players living in my apartment to help pay the rent. And one of them got sent down to AA when he got called up. So I just walked up to him when first day and I said, hey, I'm Jeff and you're my roommate. So rent's $250 a month, partner. Like they sent out the guy that lived there to make room for you, so you're moving in. So, but he was great. One night I always tell the story. There was one night where we came home and it was kind of raining, and he tracked a little mud through the apartment on the carpet, and he clearly didn't know he did it. And I said, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" And a couple minutes later, he's out there with a wet towel, scrubbing it, cleaning it up. And he was a great roommate, great kid. I think his his favorite thing to eat were the chicken wings at the Hooters, but it was nice because we have him right down the street from our place. So he wasn't even old enough to drink. So I'd sit there and have a beer while we watched the West Coast baseball games at Hooters for a couple hours every night. So
you probably were like you better not drink this. You got a game tomorrow.
Yeah. No, he knew, and he had a baby face. So he didn't look 21. Even though he was like 6'3", he still didn't look 21. So he had to sit there and enjoy a lemonade.
Okay. What Cubs prospect are you most excited to see come to the majors?
Oof. Oh man. The Nico Horner guy, he's been there a little bit now. I saw him in Double-A a couple of years ago when Tennessee was playing at Chattanooga. I was there for a night, and like, man, this guy really hits the ball hard every time he hits it. And then he actually ended up getting called up a few weeks after that because they needed a guy for a couple of days or whatever. But I guess he's still considered a prospect, even though he was up for a little while last year too.
Yeah,
but I think he's an exciting player. They always seem to have some pitching guys that are on the verge of being stars, and hopefully they can turn them into good bullpen pieces if they can't be starters. So we'll see.
All right. Well, Jeff, I appreciate the time you took to answer these questions. Again, like minor league baseball is a huge building block for major leagues. And it's baseball. I mean, I think, I encourage young fans to go to a game, like a minor league game. Again, it's affordable, it's accessible, it's more personalized, and it's like going to an amusement park, but with baseball in it.
Yeah. And like you said, it's affordable in most places. You can call the office or go on their Facebook page or their website, and you'll see that, for example, here in Clearwater, Tuesday nights are $2 tickets and $2 hot dogs and $2 tacos and $2 tap beer. So,
it's less than $50.
Yeah, not even close. Because I'll go and feed my kid hot dogs and I'll have a couple beers and we'll leave, and we're only $20 in the hole. So it's not bad. It's very affordable. So certainly look at your local team and go to their Facebook page, see what their specials are on given nights of the week, and go enjoy on those nights when it's really cheap, and you'll have the same amount of fun as you will any other day.
All right. Is there anything minor league baseball is working on as far as events for opening day or anything in the beginning of the season?
There is.
You can't talk about
a couple things. Yeah, there's a couple things in the hopper, and we actually have a follow-up meeting tomorrow on them. So I'm hoping to learn a little bit more tomorrow, but it'll be a fun time, especially since we were gone last year. I think everybody's itching to get back. So hopefully with the pandemic, having little over another month for everybody to get vaccinated, hopefully the stadium capacities can get back a little closer to normal, as opposed to the 20%, 30%, some of the things we're seeing around the country. So I imagine you'll see a very, very big celebration of baseball once it gets back to the ballparks this year.
All right. Well, I hope you enjoy this season of baseball, and congratulations from coming through like this whole hurdle, and also the minor league affiliates. I think you guys all did a wonderful job compared to what what you had to deal with was a lot. So, we appreciate you as baseball fans for doing what you do. And again, thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Happy to do it anytime.
All right. You have a good one.
You too. Thanks, Eddie.